Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you who have joined us in this recorded webinar organized by International Business Advisors in association with Tax Guru and Mimamsa Law Offices. As a quick background, my name is Nimish Goel and I'm a partner and the head of indirect taxes with International Business Advisors. IBA is a boutique tax audit and a consulting firm which operates out of 3 offices located in Delhi, Mumbai, and Bangalore, with a staff size of more than 60 plus professionals and with 4 partners who have spent considerable time in Big Fours. Before I proceed further, I would like to introduce you to my team members who are part of this discussion in this webinar. Ujjwal, who is a senior manager, Sumit, who is a deputy manager with IBA, and along with them, we have Bhishma and Krishna, who are the partners of Mimamsa Law Offices. Mimamsa Law Offices is a law firm that works extensively with IBA on all indirect tax litigation matters. The format of this webinar shall be as follows. I will give a brief introduction followed by an in-depth analysis of the legislative amendments and provisions announced by the Finance Minister in his budget speech on the 29th of Feb. This webinar is recorded in 4 videos, including this one that captures CENVAT, service tax, excise, and customs. If we look at the budget on an overall basis, no big bang measures have really been announced by the Finance Minister. Though in the past and in the press releases, there were discussions on some structural changes that were expected in service tax and excise as a precursor to GST. Though the Finance Minister did make a statement on the constitutional amendment bill getting passed in Rajya Sabha, the relative sincerity in actually implementing it seems to be a far off proposition at the moment. We were also expecting few amendments in the indirect taxes relating to increase of threshold limits for service tax, increase in service tax rate, broadening of the tax base, and rationalization of the CENVAT provisions. But nothing substantial seems to have been announced by Mr. Arun Jaitley. On a broad basis, if we look, the Finance Minister has kind of categorized his proposals on indirect taxes under 3 segments. Incentivizing the Make in India initiative, reducing the tax litigations, and rationalizing the indirect tax provisions on a long-term basis. The Finance Minister very clearly seems to have focused on empowering the Make in India initiative by removing customs duty exemptions on a variety of goods. The thrust does seem to be more on electronics, hardware, and the infrastructure industry, where customs duty exemption has been provided to imported parts and components for manufacture of chargers, battery operators, adapters, speakers to be used in the manufacture of mobile phones. Similar duty exemptions have also been given to parts and components for use in the manufacture of routers, broadband modems, set-top boxes, DVRs, CCTV cameras, etc. These exemptions are available only when the companies import such items for their actual use, since direct import of these items continue to be exempt on import of those items. Prolonged litigation has taken a toll on government's administration machinery, and this seems to be corrected by proposing a one-time dispute resolution scheme allowing the taxpayer to settle the tax dispute pending with the first appellate authority, that is the Commission of Appeals. We shall discuss in depth later in our presentation these provisions. On the aspects of ease of doing business, that has been one of the mantras of Mr. Narendra Modi to the foreign investors. Few measures seem to be visible on a first look of the finance bill. Increase in monetary limits for prosecution, restricting the situations for arrest of defaulting taxpayers, and introducing the provisions for deferred payment of customs duties for certain classes of importers and exporters seem to be a welcome measure. In my opinion, on an overall basis, the budget seems to be quite populist with a large focus on creating value addition in India, removing the cascading effect by streamlining credit mechanism, and creating a conducive environment for doing business with ease. With this, I would now like to stop and hand over the mic to my colleagues.
Thank you, Nimish, for handing over. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Bhishma Aluwalia here to discuss with you the amendments with respect to the changes in the CENVAT credit rules. The rules have been amended to rationalize the scheme, but as we know it, every rationalization scheme brings with it new challenges and risks to mitigate. Let us see what we face in the times to come. Let us start with the definition of capital goods and inputs. The definition of capital goods has been amended to include railway wagons specifically. Strangely enough, the locomotives used to pull such wagons have been kept out of the inclusion. It should be noted that the decision of tribunal in the case of Bhushan Steel has allowed credit on such locomotives as inputs earlier. Another amendment in the credit rules is with respect to the definition of capital goods, wherein the earlier exclusion of office equipments has been done away with. Now, the office equipments like ACs, computers, printers, etc. are all entitled for credit. The question is whether such office equipments should be located in the office within the factory, or even if such office equipments are used at the corporate offices which are located away from the factory are entitled for such benefit. It is worth to mention the decision of Vikram Ispat of Supreme Court, wherein with respect to a captive mine it was held that a captive mine is an integral and it is integrally connected to the factory premises, and therefore goods used in such captive mines are entitled to credit. Can it be argued that a corporate office which functions or which operates the entire factory is also integrally connected, and therefore all the office equipments being used at such integrally connected corporate office are entitled to credit? I think such an issue shall be worth fighting for. Further amendments in this have allowed credit on water pumping equipment situated outside the factory. The definition of inputs now includes capital goods which have value less than rupees 10,000. Water pumping equipments used within the factory are also entitled to credit. The utilization provision has been amended to bar utilization of CENVAT to pay NCCD. The infrastructure cess is not creditable, and CENVAT cannot be utilized to pay off such infrastructure cess. There have been some certain clearance and restrictions have been imposed on molds and dies. Rule 45B, which deals with clearance of such molds and dies without reversal of credit, has been restricted only for clearances of Chapter 82 molds. Earlier, all sorts of molds, jigs and fixtures were allowed to be cleared to a job worker or to another third-party manufacturer without reversal of credit. It is strange to note that as to why such a restriction has been imposed on heavy molds and dies, CI molds, which probably do not form part of Chapter 82. As far as rationalization is concerned, Rule 46, which deals with clearance of goods from the factory of a job worker operating under the notification 214/86, has been relaxed. The permission which was supposed to be taken from AC and DC was earlier available only for 1 year. Rule 46 has been amended to provide for such permission for up to 3 years. Thereafter, the utilization provisions have also been amended to provide for manner of utilization of tax paid on assignment of right to use by government of natural resources. Well, the assignment of right to use of natural resources is now a taxable service. With respect to spectrum, it has now become a declared service under the service tax law. This amendment is to deal with respect to the credit admissibility of such assignment of right to use. Well, since these assignments are long-term assignments, it is mandated that the entire credit on such services shall be spread over the useful life of such assignment. A formula has been prescribed to determine per annum credit admissibility of the manufacturers and service providers. The provision also provides that in case an assignment has been reassigned during the original period of assignment, a manufacturer or a service provider is entitled to utilize the entire credit for payment of tax liability arising on such reassignment. However, the utilization has to be restricted to the tax charged on such reassignment. The balance, if any, shall unfortunately lapse. Such a restriction is not there on monthly or annual charges of such assignments. Credit pertaining to such monthly and annual charges can be utilized immediately. Certain questions arise with respect to credit on such right to use assignments. One of the issues which is worth pondering over is what will happen in case of a right to use has been assigned to a consortium. How will be the portion of credit be done between the partners? Whether it has to be done based upon the liabilities of each partner, or it has to be done based upon the fees paid or the license fee paid by each partner in the consortium. Such questions may come in future, but it has not been provided as to what are the answers to such questions. Another issue which we foresee with respect to such a provision is what will happen in case a right to use, or license for short, is cancelled. Say, if a license fee has been paid in year 1 and it has to be amortized over a period of, say, 15 years. After 3 years or 4 years, the entire license gets cancelled. Credit pertaining to almost 10 years remains unamortized. That means unavailed, unutilized. Where does that credit goes? There is no provision till now entitling the assessee for refund of such unamortized credit. May I remind you that such an issue has come to our mind only because of the recent scams the country has witnessed. Please note the 2G scam and the coal scam.